you're the person to ask, not only because you're a whistleblower, you were in the SAS, you're also a lawyer, right? So can you just start out very simply by telling us who Ben Robert Smith is? Because I think there's a trend to market him as the most decorated Australian soldier alive, and he was in Afghanistan and he received the Victoria Cross. But for the people who don't know, can you explain who he is and why this recent ruling was so important?
He was Australia's most famous soldier by far. He was the face of the Afghan war. It is a very important case because a lot flows from this. There were always rumors about him in the military, and quite well known, but rumors are just rumors. In 2018, the newspaper, two very big newspapers, equivalent of the Washington Post, I guess, in Australia, ran these huge stories saying, actually, first they used an assumed name, so it got everybody's interest up. They called him Leonidas. They said that, based on the Spartans, and it seems like they didn't choose that name randomly. It seemed like his whole ethos was like he kind of thought he was Leonidas, and when he kicked someone off a cliff, he seemed to think that he was acting out some scene from 300.
Kicked someone off of a cliff, an Afghan man.
A lot of his defenders say, oh, well, he was just taking out Taliban and that's what happens in war. But that wasn't the case. This was just a random guy who had gone to the local village to buy flour, and been picked out, and they'd asked him, where are the Taliban? And this guy was like, no, I don't know any Taliban. And then they just killed him. And so there was no suspicion that this bloke was Taliban. For people who are in the military, you pick up on snippets of the story that go over other people's heads. Now, one of the things that came out, that other SAS soldiers, and this was another good thing, he was outed not by journalists, really, when they ran the story, but he was outed by other SAS soldiers who were every bit as brave, every bit as patriotic, or more so, really. But they'd say they'd gone up the Congo with a reference to the Joseph Conrad novel or the Apocalypse Now, a kind of mixture of both. Which meant that they weren't trying to actually kill Taliban. They were trying to terrorize the population by doing things, by just grabbing a random bloke, throwing him off the cliff. When this guy got thrown off the cliff, it was in full view of people, and they shot him when he got down the bottom. And when he didn't shoot Ben Robert Smith, according to the allegations, which has been proved, he didn't shoot the guy himself. He got his Afghan, got other people to do it, and that wasn't an accident. That meant that they couldn't squeal on you. They were now involved. I mean, you told them to do it, but once they did it, they could hardly go and give evidence against you.
Ordering other SAS to do it at first, and then I kept digging into this, and as you hinted, he told the interpreter to tell an Afghan to shoot this Afghan man.
Yeah,
right.
In that case, he got an Afghan to do it, but there was another case when he got a rookie to do it.
Yeah, it's blooding.
But he's complicit himself. I mean, he's saying you need to shoot this guy.
There were basically 6 murders that were discussed in this case, right? So he was suing the papers for accusing him of having murdered people, and then I think out of the 6, the judge said or ruled 3 of them to be true based on what was it, the hanging on the probabilities of what testimony and facts the judge had seen, right? So at least 3 of them we know are likely true.
And the judge was very fair. The judge was very good judge. We were lucky in this case. Justice was lucky. We had a very good judge who took a long time to write his judgment. It was like 600 pages long. I think that's the one of
Wow.
them, and there's a classified, and that's a big judgment. There were 60 witnesses or something, and he really was very judge-like in the sense that he in the cases, even though he knew it was a very serious allegation to make, he said, I'm satisfied in these three cases that it's, well,
God.
he didn't say beyond reasonable doubt, but he said it's clear that this is what happened. And also there were other things, because he said, in judge language, he said Robert Smith was an unreliable witness, which means he's a liar. One of the things that really sunk him in the eyes of Australia was all the little shitty things that he did. You know, he had he burned his computer with petrol so that police couldn't get it. And then when he asked about it, he said with a straight face, yeah, doesn't everybody, you know, burn their computer with petrol? And he sent letters to other SAS people saying, you know, if you give evidence, I'm going to burn your house down. And
God, I feel like he spent more effort trying to
like
hide the affair than the killings.
There's still a lot of people in Australia. They don't necessarily come out and say it. Usually they're on Twitter with assumed names or fake names, and they still love him. And they're like, oh, well, war is war. All these backyard warriors saying, oh, war is war, and you know how hard it is. But the problem is with him, he didn't run that defense. If he'd come out and done the old Colonel Jessup, you can't handle the truth. Yes, I killed people, but I killed people to save Australian lives or something. He would have had a chance, but he didn't say that.